I still remember the moment the room went quiet. I was standing in front of a group of polished professionals in suits, holding a glass of sparkling water I didn't dare drink, when my daughter, my own daughter, laughed and imitated my foreign accent as if it were a joke, something inconvenient she'd been forced to outgrow. The laughter around her table was polite, uncertain. Mine sat heavy in my chest, unspoken. And when I finally opened my mouth to speak, every conversation froze mid-sentence. My name is Serena. I moved to this country from a small seaside town when I was 21. Back then, I carried 2 suitcases, a pocket dictionary, and a stubborn hope that sounded foreign in every language. I worked 3 jobs the first year, learned to cook foods that tasted nothing like home, and practiced speaking by reading grocery labels out loud. The accent, however, never left me. I used to believe it held the shape of where I was from, my grandmother's prayers, the ocean wind, the lullabies my mother hummed. But my daughter, Clara, felt differently. Clara grew up here. Her language was fluent, crisp, without the soft rolling sounds that linger in mine. She learned vocabulary faster than I could pronounce it, spelling words I had never heard before. By the time she was in high school, she corrected my speech like she was fixing a broken object. "Say it like this, Mom," she would insist. "People might not understand you." She never meant to hurt me, at least not then. I thought she just wanted me to fit in. But somewhere between youthful impatience and adulthood, her correction turned into embarrassment. Mine, apparently, was the voice she didn't want others to hear. The office party invitation came from her boyfriend, Ethan, a kind, tall young man who opened doors and thanked me for even the smallest things. He worked at a marketing firm and thought it would be fun if we met his team. He told me how proud Clara was of me, how she often mentioned her hard-working mother. I believed him, or maybe I just wanted to. I wore my best dress, navy blue with white buttons, and baked a plate of almond cookies from my hometown. I practiced saying, "It's nice to meet you," over and over while looking in the mirror, smiling so I wouldn't accidentally look nervous when the words came out. When we arrived, Ethan introduced me warmly, and for a while, everything was pleasant. People nodded politely, complimented the cookies, asked me where I was from. I felt shy but seen, as if I were allowed to exist in the room without apology. Then someone asked how I made the cookies. I began to describe them, fumbling slightly over a word. And before I could finish, Clara stepped into the circle and repeated what I said, but exaggerated my accent, stretching the vowels, tightening the consonants like a caricature. The group chuckled uneasily, unsure whether to laugh or pretend they hadn't heard the insult. Clara grinned, her cheeks slightly flushed from wine. "She tries," she said in a playful sing-song voice. "English is hard for her." I felt my heart shake a little, the way a window rattles in the wind. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt at first. I simply didn't recognize the voice that came from my daughter's mouth. I waited for her to realize what she'd done, to take the words back, to soften them. But she just sipped her drink, proud of her cleverness. Something inside me, something old and unbending, rose to the surface. Maybe it was my grandmother's voice, maybe the ocean, maybe my 21-year-old self standing in line with a dictionary. Whatever it was tired of being ashamed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't try to sound fluent or perfect. I simply spoke. But I spoke with the weight of every word I had ever struggled to learn. "I do not have trouble with English," I said gently. "English has trouble holding all the places I have lived." The room quieted immediately. A few eyebrows lifted. Someone put down their drink. Clara stared at me, her smile frozen halfway, like she wasn't sure whether I was joking. I continued. This accent is not a mistake. I did not forget how to speak. I did not fail to sound American. I sound exactly like myself, and it took me years to become this version. There was no tremor in my voice. No apology. Just memory. I told them how I worked when others slept. How I asked strangers how to say simple words. How every mispronunciation carried a little piece of courage. If I speak differently, I said, it is because my voice traveled farther than yours to get here. Silence spread itself across the table like a heavy cloth. Not uncomfortable, respectful. The kind of silence people give to something that deserves attention. Even Ethan's boss leaned in slightly. Then I smiled softly, not at Clara but for her. And every dessert I make carries a language too. You do not need to understand it for it to be beautiful. Someone clapped quietly, unsure, then proud. Others joined, not loudly, but with the sincerity of people who suddenly feel small in the presence of something honest. Clara didn't clap. She looked stunned, almost young again, like the little girl who once begged me to sing her lullabies in our native tongue. We drove home in silence. The air between us felt fragile, like a thin piece of paper that might tear if touched too roughly. Halfway to our house, Clara spoke, her voice small. "Mom, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to embarrass you." I looked at her hands, tightly folded in her lap. She wasn't arrogant now. She was afraid, not of me, but of what she had become in that moment. I reached over and touched her arm. "You were not trying to embarrass me," I said. "You were trying not to be embarrassed by me." She swallowed hard. Her eyes filled with something she rarely showed anymore: vulnerability. "I don't know why I do that," she admitted. "I guess. I just want to fit in. I want people to respect me." "You think they will respect you more if you silence part of who you are," I replied gently. "But they will respect you less if you silence me, because I am part of you." Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She let them stay, like they belonged on her face. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said. "I just need to learn how to show it." "We both do," I answered softly. Weeks passed. Clara became quieter, thoughtful. She started asking me about my childhood recipes again, about words she never learned to pronounce, about traditions she once ignored. Sometimes we cooked together. Sometimes we just talked. Her accent softened when she tried my language, and she laughed at herself kindly instead of harshly. One evening, while we kneaded dough for almond cookies, she said, "I think your voice is beautiful." I smiled. "It is mine," I said. "That is enough." And in the warmth of the kitchen, with flour floating like little snowflakes, I realized something. I didn't raise a perfect daughter, nor did I need to. I raised a young woman still learning how to be whole, just as I am learning how to be heard. Not through volume, not through perfection, but through presence. My accent remains as it has always been, full of oceans, grandmothers, survival, lullabies, migrations, mistakes, hope. A voice that traveled, a voice that stayed. And when people hear it now, they do not hear broken English. They hear a journey. And my daughter hears her mother.